Boys lay scattered in the yard, their colors long faded, and tatters of cloth still clung stubbornly to the clothesline, swaying in the mountain wind. Folks said if the wind caught just right, you could still hear the faint echo of screams from within those splintered walls. And yet, no whisper nor warning could have prepared us mountain folk for the dreadful winter's day when the truth finally came to light. Miss Jenny was the jewel of the valley, olive-skinned, with hazel eyes that sparkled like sunlit honey. She had a smile that warmed even the coldest hearts. She carried herself with the grace of the mountain wildflowers, simple yet radiant, and every man in town admired her, not just for her beauty, but for the kindness she gave freely. Her husband, Danny, worked the woods as a lumberjack, kind and humble, though danger was always near in the mountains. One early morning, a tall, lean man appeared. Sandy brown hair and a jagged scar across the right side of his face. His voice was so deep, it seemed to shake the trees. He said his name was John and asked if we needed any help out here in the mountains. Danny explained that the work was hard and dangerous. Men often didn't return from those woods. But John was steady, strong, dependable. At least, that's what most believed. The war had left its mark on him. Where most men flinched at the memory of killing, John carried it like a badge. There was a darkness in him, quiet but sharp, like the edge of an axe freshly honed. And even though Jenny light shone bright, it could not banish the darkness in his heart. Jenny had been outside most of the morning, her shawl pulled tight against the mountain chill, gathering up the last of the fire logs to stack by the door. The air was quiet, the kind of stillness that makes the hair rise on the back of your neck. She bent low to scoop up a heavy piece when she heard boots crunched against the frozen dirt road. "Hey there, Jenny," came a voice low and steady. She turned to see John making his way toward her, that sandy hair catching bits of the winter light. "Need any help with them logs?" Jenny straightened, her polite smile masking the sudden knot in her stomach. "No, thank you, John. I can manage." But before the words had fully left her lips, she noticed he'd already gathered a couple of the logs in his arms. By the time she followed him, he was stepping right into her cabin as if it were his own, her hands dampened with sweat, heart pounding against her chest like a drum. "Thank you, John," she said, her voice quivering. "No problem, Miss." "Jenny," he replied, his tone smooth, almost too smooth. "Well, my husband will be here soon," she said, trying to steady herself, "so I'll just let you out." She moved quickly to the door, grasping the handle, but before she could pull it open, a thunderous slam rattled the walls. John's hand had shoved it shut. The sound echoed through the small cabin like a gunshot. Jenny froze. Then instinct took over. She began to yell, her voice sharp with fear, but she was silenced almost at once, John's rough hand clamping down hard across her mouth. Jenny's pulse hammered in her ears as the cabin walls seemed to close in tighter around her. John's hand lingered on the door, fingers spread wide against the wood, blocking her only way out. "Now, hold on," he said softly, almost kindly, his voice carrying that mountain drawl. "Ain't no need to rush me out. Just thought I'd lend a hand is all." Jenny forced a small laugh, though her throat was dry. "And I do thank you, John, I surely do. But like I said, My husband will be home any minute. He don't take kindly to me entertaining company without him here." John tilted his head, his eyes narrowing just enough to make her breath hitch. "Company?" he repeated, the word slow, as if it tasted strange on his tongue. "Ain't that something? Thought I was just helping a neighbor." Jenny's hands twisted together at her waist, knuckles white. The fire crackled in the hearth behind her, the only sound between them. The smell of pine logs and smoke mingled with the faint musk of sweat and iron that clung to John's clothes. I'll fetch you some water for your trouble," she said, stepping sideways toward the kitchen table, her voice trembling. Every step she took, her eyes stayed fixed on him, like watching a coiled rattlesnake. John didn't move from the door. He leaned back against it, arms folding across his chest, those eyes never leaving her. His lips curled into the faintest smile, one that didn't reach his eyes. Jenny swallowed hard. The jug was only a few feet away, but the distance felt like miles. She could feel her own sweat sliding cold down her back beneath her dress. Every second that passed pressed heavier on her chest, making it harder to breathe. Jenny's hand trembled as she reached for the water jug, her fingers brushing the cool clay. She poured carefully, the steady stream of water the only sound breaking the silence. Behind her, John chuckled low, a sound that carried no humor. "You know," he said, voice calm, almost thoughtful, "a man can work in these woods for years and never feel notice. But you, Jenny, you always notice, always got a kind word. Always that smile." Jenny stiffened, the cup nearly slipping from her hand. She forced herself to answer. "I reckon kindness don't cost me nothing, John. World's hard enough without folks being cruel." He pushed off from the door, the heavy floorboards creaking beneath his boots as he took a slow step forward. "Cruel," he repeated, like he was tasting the word. His eyes gleamed in the firelight, cold and sharp. "See, war taught me something. Kindness don't get you far. Fear does. Power does." Jenny's stomach dropped. She set the cup down quick, hands shaking too much to hold it. "John," she whispered, her voice quivering like a trapped bird, "I think you ought to go on now. My husband, he'll be here any—" Her words caught in her throat as John stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the iron tang of blood still clinging faintly to his clothes, a scent that had never washed out since the war. "You think I'm scared of your husband?" he said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. His jaw tightened, that smile now gone, replaced by something darker, something hollow. "I've seen men stronger than him beg for mercy on their knees. Men braver than him cry like children when the life left their eyes." Jenny's breath came quick and shallow, her back inching toward the wall. Her heart pounded so loud she feared he could hear it. She realized then this wasn't about helping with the logs. This wasn't about kindness. John hadn't come as a neighbor. He'd come with something else in his heart, something she dared not name. Just then, a hard knock thundered against the cabin door. A man's voice called out, deep and steady, "Hello? Hello? Anyone home?" Jenny tried to scream, but John shot her a wicked look and clamped his rough hand over her mouth. Her eyes darted to the window just in time to see a tall figure peering in. What he saw made him move fast. The door burst open with a crack like thunder. The stranger lunged at John, and the cabin filled with the sounds of struggle, fists landing hard, furniture breaking, firelight flaring wild across the walls. Jenny ran. She tore through the cold night air, her shawl flying behind her as she hid among the pines, near the house. Her heart pounded as the fight raged inside. Then suddenly, silence. Moments later, the door creaked open. The stranger stepped out, dragging John by the collar, his voice calm but fierce. "You best not ever come round these parts again," he warned. And then, just like that, he was gone, disappearing into the falling snow. When Danny returned home and saw the cabin in ruins, Jenny told him everything, her hands still trembling. The next morning, they searched the yard for tracks in the fresh snow, but there were none. No footprints, no trail, nothing but the untouched white ground. Danny frowned. "Jenny," he said softly, "there ain't been no strangers passing through these parts." Jenny stared out toward the tree line, her heart heavy but grateful. Whoever that man was, he'd come when she needed him most. And though the cabin still stands, weathered and hollow, folks say on winter nights, when the wind turns sharp and the snow falls heavy, you can still hear that knock at the door like a warning or a promise. Well, thanks for listening to Grandpa Appalachian Story Time Tales. And for more of these great stories, please like, share, and subscribe.